Okay, now this surprised me. Despite EV incentives being paused and despite the tariffs and all the politics that are going on right now, America is still on track to add over 16,000 public fast charging EV ports this year. That's 2.4 times more than were added last year, and it's not slowing down. If this pace continues, the US will have 100,000 public fast charging ports by 2027. So something fundamental has shifted in the EV market, and it's not slowing down. In fact, it's happening regardless of politics. So let me talk to you for a few minutes about what's going on. First, let's look at the numbers. The US now has 11,600 plus public fast charging stations with nearly 60,000 ports. Despite federal funding being paused, 2025 is projected to be a record year for fast charging deployment, nearly 20% year-over-year increase in new ports. But here's what's really changed. It's not just about more chargers. The new stations are becoming standardized with a minimum of 10 stalls that deliver 350 to 400 kilowatt hours of power. In the second quarter, 63% of newly deployed ports were capable of delivering 250 kilowatts or more, up from 47% in the first quarter. So let me translate that for you. That means faster charging, more available plugs, and less waiting. So what's driving this? Who's building all these EV ports when the politics are so uncertain? Charging data company Paren calls them Charging 2.0 companies. So these are new players like Ionna, Mercedes-Benz High Power Charging, BP Pulse, and even Walmart. These aren't startups hoping and waiting around for government subsidies. These are companies with their eyes on the future. Companies like Ionna, Mercedes-Benz, BP Pulse, and Walmart, like I just mentioned, have all publicly committed to opening thousands of fast charging stations between now and 2030. And they're moving forward with those plans regardless of what happens with EV sales, tariffs, or tax credits. And there's some things that are making them different from the early charging station. The first generation of EV chargers were sometimes just like 2 to 4 ports stuck in the corner of a parking lot somewhere. Now, non-Tesla public fast charging stations have an average of 3 ports per station, and they're averaging 3.8 ports. But Charging 2.0 companies are thinking even bigger. They're thinking 10 to 20 stalls at a minimum, Wi-Fi, restrooms, places to get some food. So they're thinking about the entire experience. And they're building charging hubs, not just charging stations. So now let's talk about the technology getting better. In August 2025, ChargePoint and Eaton announced an ultra-fast charging system that delivers up to 600 kilowatts of power for passenger EVs and can provide megawatt charging for heavy-duty commercial vehicles. To put that in perspective, a typical charging station gives you 150 kilowatts. At 600 kilowatts, you can add hundreds of miles in just minutes to your car. The system also includes vehicle-to-grid capability, meaning EVs can not only charge from the grid, but they can send power back towards it during peak demand. Your car becomes part of the energy system, not just a consumer of it. And these companies are trying to future-proof. So these Charging 2.0 companies are building EV charging stations in regions where there isn't a lot of demand because they're thinking towards the future. And that's one reason average utilization rates have dropped from 16.6 in quarter 1 to 16.1 in quarter 2. It's not because fewer people are charging, but it's because there are more chargers available. So here's what it means if you're considering an EV or you already have one. The charging anxiety problem is getting solved, not because of government mandates or subsidies, but because private companies are making long-term bets. So now the odds of pulling up to a station where it's out of date, broken, or something's just not working and you can't charge it, those chances are shrinking. And the chances that you'll find a nice new station that's reliable and high-powered with all those extra amenities that you may be interested in are growing. Tesla still accounts for 40.2% of new fast charging ports opened in Q2, with an all-time market share of 54.3%. But those non-Tesla networks are catching up fast, especially with most new EVs now adopting Tesla's charging standard. Of course, there are still some challenges. The charging experience can change drastically by region. Some areas have abundant chargers and other areas have very few. And grid capacity in certain locations can limit how many charging stations can be added. But the trajectory is clear. At the current pace, the US will have 100,000 public fast charging ports by 2027, and that's fundamentally different infrastructure landscape than what exists even today. What I find fascinating about this is how all of this is evolving and growing without the political kind of interference. So even without the political support, there's companies out there that realize EV and electric charging is kind of inevitable. It is part of the future. And because those companies, want to make profits and see what we're not quite seeing yet, they're building that infrastructure to take advantage of it when the time comes. So whether you think it's the right move or not for these companies, it's kind of getting to be inevitable that we will have better EV charging stations and a lot more of them by 2027. And what I think is exciting about it is that this can start to change whether you can take your EV reliably and without that charging anxiety on longer trips. So I'm curious, are you considering an EV or do you already have one? Does the charging infrastructure around our nation still worry you? Let me know in the comments below and have a wonderful day.